Hi, I'm Don Giannatti, lighting-essentials.com and project52prosystem.com. You know, getting into the business as a pro these days is a different model. It's a different track than a lot of us had when we got into the business. It was got cameras, had a massive crush on photography, was doing it all the time, and then you got in a job as an assistant, kind of an apprentice to a photographer, and you worked for them for 2, 3, 5, 6 years, and then you mustered all your cash that you had saved from being paid terribly low wages and living with a bunch of roommates, and went out and opened your own studio. You already had a working knowledge of cameras, etc., but you also had that working knowledge of how to deal with clients, how to bill, how to deliver, how to work with an art director who has a layout, how to work with an art director who doesn't know what they want, how to work with other people in the business. And it's a huge, huge part of becoming a professional. That is so hard to do these days. And a lot of people who are older are entering the market because you can. You don't have to be a kid anymore to be a photographer. You can start. My friend Eric started in his late 40s, early 50s. My friend Steve, the same thing. I've got people over in Europe. I'm not going to mention any names or particular ages because I think they'd all kill me. So I'm just not going to go there. But I did know that Steve and Eric were there, and Eric's got a great studio going in the Bay Area. Steve's out on the East Coast, rocking a very small town called Fredericksburg. Not really a really high end ad town, and yet he's quite busy. So it can be done, but it's different. So if you're interested at all in that, check out the project52prosystem.com. I think it might be something that'll help you along the way. All right, enough of that crap. Now we got to get into the other two things that you have got to have in your portfolio. Well, yesterday we talked about portfolios, and we talked a little bit about making sure your portfolio solves problems and boosts your credibility by showing the art director the kind of photographs they would possibly use. That doesn't mean that you've got to go out and make something like everybody else. As a matter of fact, that's number 3. Your work can't be like everybody else. It just can't. If it is, what's the purpose for them to change from that photographer to you? What's the reason? I can't even think of one. There are other photographers, a tried and true vendor. He comes through, she comes through on all the jobs. They know them. They know how they bill. They know what they price. They know all this stuff. You're an unknown quantity, and you want them to change from that photographer to you. Simply ludicrous when you think about it from a business standpoint. Makes no sense. Why would I if I'm the client? So you got to give me a reason for changing over to you. Sometimes that reason can be your style. Sometimes it can be your approach. Sometimes it can be the quality of the work in your portfolio just far exceeds the other photographer's work. Those things are great. But what usually works is when you present something that is yours. Your work, presented your way. Not work that you went through the Black Book or the workbook or up online and found somebody and said, I'm going to copy this photographer's work. No, because we're back to square one. I had a photographer tell me one time that he had spent a couple of weeks trying to perfect exactly how this other photographer shot some team sport thing, how he did his team sport stuff. And he said, and my stuff is just as good as his, and they're not hiring me. Why would they? Absolutely no reason. When we turned it up for him and created something really unique, he did about $35,000 on the weekends just in the, I think it's Little League baseball circuit. Just on the weekends. Not a bad payday. It can happen, but you have to understand the market. You have to understand who your people are who are buying this stuff and what they're looking for. That's sometimes a little challenging, but it's well worth the time. I don't know if you could come up with a completely unique style or not. That'd be very hard. There's a lot of photographers with a lot of styles, and whatever it is you're doing, somebody's probably doing it. They may not be doing it in your neighborhood, but even then, that's no reason to copy them. When I say a unique portfolio, I mean a portfolio that only you could have created. Your shots, in your style, in your way. And your style, by the way, is not Photoshop. If your style is a plugin, if your style is Nick Silver whatever, you're in trouble. Because anybody who can load Google up or On One or any of those things, anyone who can load them up can now have your style. That's not style. That's just a gimmick. You have to work at your style. And how do you find your style? You look back. You don't look forward, you look back by shooting all the time, as much as you possibly can, over a period of a year to 2 years, maybe more. You'll start to develop a way of shooting that you like best. Then you can go back at some future date and look at this work that you've done and what is it that you like best, and you put all of those shots you like best into the same folder. And you can have landscapes and people and all that stuff. Doesn't matter. We're looking for a style. That style will reveal itself to us when it's ready. We just have to be ready for it. The fourth thing you've got to have in your portfolio is a sense of continuity, of this image flowing to this image, flowing to the next image. That can be very tricky to do if you're not very, very good with understanding how eyes move across a page, how images present. A minimalist image next to a very busy image may be too much vibration happening there. Maybe two minimal images might not be enough. It takes time and it takes images to do it. Sometimes you need a second or third or fourth eye on it as well to try to get those images so that they flow from A to B. Even with the new portfolio style of the mosaic, where the pictures are all over the place and you click on when it comes up, they're still grouped. You still have a way of making sure that this image is in this group so somehow it can go through it. And by the way, lots and lots of art directors click on the first image and then go through them with the next button. They don't necessarily close out and go looking for another picture on the page. Photographers do that. Art directors don't do that. They want to see the continuity in the images. They want to see the images flowing left to right or right to left or up to down, whatever. They just want to see them flow, because how you position your pictures next to each other tells an art director a little bit about how you think visually. And that's what art directors and editors are trying to get under their skin there, is how do you think visually? It's important. And don't let it be one of those things that you just haphazardly do to, quote, get my website done, unquote. First of all, website ain't never done, son. And second of all, you'll be working with this on and off, and the challenges of that on and off for the entire time of your career. So welcome to it. So that's the other two parts of a portfolio. And if you have all four parts of the portfolio, I think it goes without saying that your work has to be good, top notch. If there's white in the picture, it better be white. If there's black in the picture, it better be black. You have to know all the basics, from exposure to contrast to what looks good on the screen, how it then prints, etc. You've got to know all that. You can't go in guessing. And one last additional thing. Even though we are a digital world these days, a print portfolio is still something I think you should have. If for no other reason than it's your portfolio. And if you've never had one and you get one, there's a real feeling of accomplishment. There's a real feeling of reaching a plateau. You now have a portfolio, a set of images that you're going to show to somebody in a book on paper, and they're going to go through it from image 1 to image 25 or 30. In your order, in your size. Maybe it's small on the page, maybe it's large on the page, maybe it bleeds, maybe it's a two-page spread, but you get all the choice there. Online, we don't have so much choice. We can try to build a website that's left to right or hierarchically done, but it's too easy to go back to the thumbnails. So be aware that the print portfolio is not dead. If you are working in the very high end of advertising, I think you'll find a lot of portfolios up there. If you are working with a lot of mom and pops, I think it's also valuable because it's another thing. It's one of those cultural icons of being an artist in this century, in this time, in this particular platform. It's part of it. It's having a portfolio. And when you walk in and you have that portfolio, you're just going to look a whole lot different than that other guy standing over there with his iPhone or his iPad or what have you. So don't give up on the printed portfolio. So there's 2 more, plus the bonus idea of the print portfolio. 2 more things you've got to have in your portfolio. It's got to say these things up front, and then you'll get on to the next part of the hiring process, the negotiation. We'll talk about that at some point too. See you tomorrow.